In the far reaches of an uncharted star system, where the light of a dying sun barely illuminated the void, humanity's desperation pushed them to venture where no other species dared. Aboard the aging salvage ship the Dauntless, Captain Harlow and her crew scoured forgotten corners of the galaxy, hoping to find something, anything, that could secure humanity's place in a hostile universe dominated by alien empires. They weren't explorers or soldiers, just survivors of a species that had been battered and pushed to the brink after centuries of war with the Krynar Dominion. Earth was a shadow of its former self, its cities hollowed out and its fleets reduced to relics. If humanity had any hope of standing against the relentless tide of alien dominance, it would be found in the wreckage of others. The crew's sensors pinged faintly, a massive object in decaying orbit around a red giant. No official records marked its presence, and the gravitational instability of the dying star suggested it would soon be lost forever. Against the odds, Captain Harlow made the call. They would investigate. As they approached, the object took shape, an enormous warship, its hull scarred by centuries of cosmic debris. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its sleek, predatory design and faintly glowing runes suggested origins far older than any known galactic power. "It's Voryx," muttered Chief Engineer Lyra, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. The Voryx, long extinct, were the stuff of legend, a species said to have created warships so advanced that even today's empires coveted their forgotten designs. The crew knew the risks. Entering the wreck could trigger ancient defenses, and no one could predict how stable the ship's systems might be after centuries of decay. "Captain," interjected First Officer Kane, his tone cautious but firm. "We don't know what's in there. If the Krynar find out we've even touched this thing, then we give them something to fear," Harlow interrupted, her eyes fixed on the ominous silhouette of the ship. "If we leave it, it's gone forever. If we take the risk, we might find a way to survive." The Dauntless docked, and the crew, clad in patchwork EVA suits, made their way inside the alien vessel. The interior was a haunting labyrinth of dark corridors, dimly illuminated by flickering lights that pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm. The ship's design was both beautiful and alien, its walls covered in intricate carvings that seemed to tell stories of battles fought long before humanity ever reached the stars. Deeper into the vessel, they found it, a central control room, its massive panels still faintly glowing with energy. In the center sat a monolithic AI core, dormant yet humming with potential. As Lyra attempted to interface with it, the ship came alive. Warning lights flared, alien script flashed across the screens, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. A single phrase appeared, translated by their rudimentary systems unworthy. "Leave." But Harlow stood her ground, eyes blazing with determination. "We're not leaving. Not until you hear us out." The room fell silent, the ship seemingly considering their audacity. The Krynar fleet was coming, and it wasn't just one ship. A dozen battle-hardened warships, their sleek forms designed for rapid strikes, were already on a direct course toward the oblivion. Their sensors had picked up the ship's activation, and the Krynar, relentless in their pursuit of dominance, were quick to respond. It was a message. Humanity would never be allowed to rise again. Captain Harlow stood at the center of the command deck, her hands clenched into fists. The Oblivion was barely ready. Its systems were still unstable, the power core unstable, and the weapons only partially functional. The Krynar would overwhelm them without even breaking a sweat. But retreat was not an option. If they ran, they would never recover, never have a chance to turn the tide. "Prepare for combat," she ordered, her voice cold and resolute. "We've come this far, and we're not going to let them take this ship from us." The crew worked quickly, securing the ship's defenses and readying the limited weapons that were operational. The energy cannons had power, but their targeting systems were sluggish. The crew would need to use every bit of their human ingenuity to make up for the ship's flaws. The Oblivion might not be fully restored, but they had something that the Krynar didn't: sheer determination. Voryx, the ship's AI, was ready to assist, but only begrudgingly. Krynar forces superior. Tactical probability of success, 14%. We'll make our own luck, Harlow replied. Focus on what we can do. Adjust power to shields and keep the cannons online. The first wave of Krynar ships arrived in a blur of movement. Their warships were formidable, built for dominance and destruction. They launched barrages of plasma missiles that lit up the void, homing in on the Oblivion's position. The ship rocked as it took the first few hits, but its shields held. Barely. Kane was at the helm, his hands working the controls with a level of precision that only a lifetime of battle could teach. They're fast, but they're predictable, adjusting course to avoid their forward arcs. The Oblivion veered sharply, narrowly avoiding another missile strike. The Krynar were relentless, closing in with deadly intent, but Harlow's crew responded with ruthless efficiency. They fired the Oblivion's limited cannons, scoring several direct hits on the incoming ships. Sparks flew from the Krynar warship's hulls, but their defenses absorbed the fire. The enemy was learning fast, adapting their tactics to counter the human ship. "We need more power," Lyra called from the engineering deck. "The engines are strained, and the core stability is fading. We can't keep this up for long." Harlow's mind raced. If they didn't find a way to disable the Krynar fleet, they were doomed. The Oblivion's main weapon system, the massive energy beam that had vaporized the asteroid, was their only real advantage. But it required all of the ship's power to fire, and using it now might overload the core. "There's no choice," Harlow said. "We use the beam." Lyra hesitated. "Captain, if we fire it, the ship could tear itself apart. We've got one shot at this." "Do it." The crew braced themselves as Lyra rerouted power to the central weapon system. The hum of the core grew deafening, the vibrations in the ship growing stronger with every passing second. They only had a brief window before the Krynar pressed in close enough to finish the job. "Target the largest ship in the fleet," Harlow commanded. "Everything we've got. Let's give them a reason to back off." The Oblivion's massive cannon charged, its energy glowing brighter by the second. The Krynar ships, realizing the threat, began evasive maneuvers, but it was too late. A blinding beam of concentrated energy shot forward, slamming into the Krynar dreadnought. The ship's shields collapsed instantly, and the entire vessel disintegrated in a massive explosion. The shockwave rattled the Oblivion, and the core's energy flared dangerously, pushing the ship to its limits. For a moment, it seemed as if the entire vessel might implode from the strain. But against all odds, the ship held together. Captain Harlow exhaled slowly, her eyes locked on the remaining Krynar ships, which now hesitated, sensing the loss of their flagship. "Don't let up," she said, her voice sharp. "They're retreating, but they're not gone. We finished this." But the Krynar weren't ready to give up so easily. They regrouped, sending their remaining warships into a tighter formation, preparing for another assault. The battle was far from over.